Hello, so today we'll be talking about Khamzat Chimaev. A big hype around this fighter. Of course, he won his two first UFC fights in just 9 days and took no shots pretty much. And he's been very impressive in his most recent fight where he knocked his opponent out in just 17 seconds. So, I've watched almost all his professional fights apart from his first fight, which I can't find on YouTube. But I've now done a breakdown and analysed his signature moves and his different areas of his game, and we'll be talking about this in this video. It's interesting to know that he trains at the All-Stars gym in Sweden with the likes of Alexander Gustafsson and Elia Latifi, so a very good gym there. Anyway, I'm going to get on to his different aspects of the game, starting with his striking and then progressing all the way to his grappling. So, first of all, let's talk about Khamzat's footwork. Khamzat tends to circle away from his opponent's power hand, so if his opponent is orthodox and right-handed, he'll circle away from this side, and vice versa if they're southpaw, which means that he is outside of their power arc and less in danger of getting hit himself. As well as this, he swaps stances himself, meaning that his own power arc area to hit of danger is different, and I see that his switching the stances is usually due to maybe setting up a takedown on preference, maybe for a double leg, which I'll talk about later. But his main hand is obviously his right power hand, so this is interesting that he swaps stances and has that freedom in movement to do so. So getting on to his right hand, which we just saw recently in his last fight against Gerald Meerschaert, he turns his fist slightly over as he throws the punch, which means that it jars the jaw more and is more likely to cause a concussion. As a punch comes to the side of your face, it's more likely to do this with your jaw, meaning that your brain will hit the side of your skull and you'll get knocked out. So this is interesting the way he applies his cross. As well as this, he's quite good at setting up this cross by utilising a jab and sometimes slurring a jab with the cross, so it comes at a half beat rather than a full beat. This somewhat changes the pattern and makes it slightly more difficult to defend. In previous fights, he utilises his right hand a lot and sometimes even doubles up or triples up on this right hand, which means that it's not always left-right, meaning that it's less predictable in this sense because a lot of the time you get used to left-right strikes, and with Khamzat he tends to sometimes double up on the same side. Next aspect we'll be talking about is his ability to level change. This is the same in his striking as well as his takedowns, and he utilises this both to feint and also to set up his takedowns. In his first UFC fight against John Phillips, you saw him throw a high kick straight into a takedown, which meant that it went from high to low, making it even more difficult to defend. On top of this, in his other fights, such as his sixth fight, he did a similar technique where he threw a head kick straight into a takedown. In his fifth professional fight, he was against a world sambo champion, so therefore he found it slightly more difficult to take this opponent down. So instead of doing this, after a while he decided to duck down and throw an uppercut. This might be his best knockout. When I watched this, it was very impressive. He ducks down, he slips past the jab of his opponent and throws the uppercut down the middle. It's a very accurate strike and just shows you how much Khamzat isn't just a wrestler and he's a whole mixed martial artist. Another benefit of ducking down low is it not only feints to the opponent but also loads his legs up ready to throw a power shot. He did this also in his third professional fight where he looked to feint down and throw a head kick. Although it wasn't successful, it shows that he's looking to play about with the level changes to create opportunities for his strikes as well as his takedowns. Next aspect we'll be talking about is of course Khamzat's renowned takedowns. He tends to get the double unders and lift his opponent up, often moving them all the way over to his corner so that he can get more advice. This just shows you the amount of control he has and the amount of physical strength he can impose on his opponent. A cool thing he does though is he ties up the legs and gets the legs to trip over and he seems to be almost 100% successful on this technique, and even if he's not, he will pursue it and continue on trying to get this. And the advantage of getting this takedown is he often ends up in side control and therefore doesn't have to worry too much about passing guard. Also, with this double unders takedown, he leads straight into wrist control sometimes. This was seen in his 8th fight, in his second UFC fight, where he went straight into wrist control after he got the takedown. And as well as this, if he doesn't go for wrist control, he often ties the legs up straight after the takedown, showing that he's not only looking to get the opponent to the ground, but also control them once he gets them there. When he doesn't go for this double unders, he also shoots for a double leg shot, which means that he goes both for high level takedowns on the upper body and also low level takedowns on the lower body. And when he goes for the double legs at the lower level, he tends to turn the corner, meaning that he shoots and then changes the angle as he takes them down for the least amount of resistance. This is especially useful if your opponent starts to sprawl, because then they sprawl into nothing basically. In his second UFC fight, you saw him swap stances as he shot to cover more distance, and of course with the smaller cage, this means that his opponent is more trapped and it's harder to get away from the grappling exchanges. The last aspect we're talking about is Khamzat's control points, and maybe his most impressive area. So Khamzat uses wrist control a lot, as you probably have seen, and this means that he pulls the wrist and he goes even further than just grabbing your wrist, but sometimes he pulls the wrist right behind your back, almost like a policeman hold, acting as a Kimura and putting quite a bit of pressure on your shoulder. This disables that arm and also traps the opponent's movement, so allows Khamzat to have another hand to hit with, and this leaves the opponent with only one hand to defend with, whilst being somewhat completely trapped in that position. Another main control point that Khamzat uses is he laces up the legs, and this means that your legs are trapped and your lower body is unable to get out as quickly. This makes it very difficult for you to stand up when one leg is constantly tied up. This basically shows you his ability to take away his opponent's base, so his opponent doesn't ever have a good enough base to stand all the way up to their feet, and he's just using this to just distort the person's body weight as well as carry his own body weight, making it very, very difficult to stand up. And even if you do end up sorting the wrist control and starting to fight off the leg traps, you also have to worry about your neck, especially as you're starting to stand up. When your elbows got off the ground to your hands, he will often grab for your neck, a rear naked choke. This forces you to roll back to the back or get choked out, and often you see opponents roll to the back to defend the rear naked choke, which of course leaves them in the position of being underneath still and having to work back to that position once again, only to be threatened by the choke. In Khamzat's 6th and 7th professional fight, he has won by a Darce choke. This shows you that he will attack the chokes and he is a general threat with this. He's very good at getting this choke through, and in his 6th fight I saw him follow this all the way around, so it's clearly one of his favourite submissions and he's very good at doing it, which adds an extra threat of getting submitted essentially, as well as beaten to a pulp. So there you have it. Those are several different aspects of Khamzat's game so far. This is only 9 professional fights and I managed to watch 8 of them. I couldn't find his first fight, but yeah, so there's not too much to work off of yet, but he's clearly shown a well-rounded game and it's going to be exciting to watch him in the future. When watching his fights, I've only really seen one area that could possibly be a weakness, but who knows, and this is the leg lock game. It's becoming a very big thing and Dylan Dennis has been calling him out quite a bit, so it'd be interesting to see how he'll deal with a high level jiu-jitsu opponent. This is in his 2nd and 3rd professional fight. I saw him caught in a leg lock exchange. He wasn't close to being submitted, but I'd be interested to see with someone more high level how you would deal with this. However, of course, as a really good wrestler and a great controller on the ground, as we've discussed, it may be quite difficult. It's only as his leg is behind his opponent and may be vulnerable to that submission, but with his ever-growing game, it may never be a problem at all. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope this was informative. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe and share. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys soon.